over to my desk and he looks me in the face and says, "We saw you didn't have your vaccine passport turned in." And I said, "Yeah, I'm not going to turn it in." And he said, "Well, we're going to have to fire you if you don't get the vaccine passport." And I said, "No, I'm not going to do it." So what did I do? Silly me. I went to my local Republican Party thinking that they were going to help me out. They wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. They didn't want to hear it. They don't want to hear about vaccine passports, vaccine mandates, any of that kind of stuff. So when they walked me out, because that's what they do when you get fired, they walk you out. When they walked me out of the office, my first job out of school, I knew that we were losing our country. It was not good. And that basically kind of pushed me more to want to be involved in politics. Eventually I found another job, moved up here to Pasco County to start my life. And I thought, maybe I'll get involved in the Republican Party here, maybe it's different. First meeting I go to, they're discussing about how they're going to support raising taxes in Pasco. They wanted to create a new tax, and the Republicans loved the idea. So I went looking for the Republican Party, and I didn't find it. I was looking for a Republican Party for lower taxes, individual liberties, individual rights, limited government. And these Republicans were voting on a penny for Pasco, which was a penny from Pasco, to raise taxes, because that's what our government does. It just gets bigger and bigger. One gentleman stood up in the crowd, big cowboy hat, you may know him, Dave Wallace, and said, "How are we going to call ourselves Republicans if we're voting to increase taxes?" He was immediately chastised. He was immediately labeled a troublemaker just for bringing up the fact that they weren't acting like Republicans. So that's how I was introduced to the Republican Liberty Caucus. My name is Nathan Ewers. I'm the chairman of the RLC, Republican Liberty Caucus of Pasco. We promote limited government, individual rights, and lowering taxes. Very simple platform. It says it on the sign over here. It's my teleprompter. So basically that kind of launched me into wanting to get more involved in politics, and I saw that RLC is the most active group in the entire, basically, nation, fighting on the front lines to restore liberties, restoring the Republican Party to its original intent, which is the main goal. The mission of the Republican Liberty Caucus is to restore the Republican Party to its ideological roots. Limited government, lower taxes, free enterprise.
Right.
Amen. So the question is, why the Liberty Caucus? Why do we exist? We exist to work within our Republican Party to restore our republic and restore it to its original intent as the Founding Fathers had intended it to be.
That's right.
We promote policy that restores liberties, election integrity, gun rights, health freedom, freedom of speech, the basics, right? What we thought were the basics are not apparently that common sense anymore. We do this by working within the Republican Party. We lobby, we go to Tallahassee with our chairman Tom Vail and our state group. We lobby for legislation. We're boots on the ground. We work in campaigns, grassroots campaigns, to get grassroots candidates elected to office. A bunch of our RLC members are actually candidates. We have several here today. If you're a candidate, stand up. We want to recognize you. It takes a lot of courage to go up against the system, and I only surround myself with grassroots type people. I want nothing to do with the establishment. They've tried to recruit me and get me in on their agenda, and it's not something you want to be a part of. We were recently in Tallahassee lobbying, meeting with our so-called leadership, and they said something that I thought was interesting, is that we're one big Republican family. Sometimes we fight, sometimes we have our competitions and stuff, but we're a big family at the end of the day. And I think that's absolutely a lie. They treat us like the enemy, the grassroots. They weaponize political action committees, the big dark money against us. And we keep getting conned over and over again to just vote Republican. But it is not enough to just vote Republican anymore. It's not enough. You have to vote in the primaries. You have to get active. And that's exactly why I brought Matt the Welder, Aaron Baker. We got Tom Vail, And we got our other speakers. We have Chris Gleason for Senate. We have grassroots candidates here. That is my mission, is to get grassroots candidates elected. So I plan to bring up Tom first, but I want to bring up Chris because he's short on time. So Chris Gleason is running for Senate against Ashley Moody. This is a statewide election everybody can vote in. He's an election integrity fighter, uncovering all the fraud with Act Blue, with Win Red, all these other things, looking into how our election was stolen. So he's a true patriot. I want to welcome Chris to the front, and thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. A lot of places, they won't have me because I'm not establishment. They make laws because of the stuff that I find to hide the stuff that I find. So there was this whole thing, SB 7050, that that they passed that allowed Ron DeSantis to not resign to run. But within that bill was a whole lot of stuff. They said it was a great thing because something that I had brought up in the 2022 election, we had caught them forwarding vote-by-mail ballots. Okay, they were sent to addresses and they were getting forwarded. And we caught them doing it in Pinellas County and other places, here in Pasco too. And so I said, hey, the law says that it's supposed to say, do not forward, and you're forwarding it. And then, oh, well, no, that's just on the special elections. That's just on the mail elections. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, sure. And we uncovered a lot of fraud. That was the beginning of my election integrity work here in Florida. And I worked with Roger Stone. I worked with Laura Loomer. I worked with a lot of good people who were fighting. We were uncovering. I ended up meeting the great Kathy Chamberlain and all of the Pinellas watchdogs, and I've met and made a lot of amazing good friends, people who they're the reason why I'm standing before you today. So I like to engage with the crowd. I like to ask them questions. I'm a big data guy, all about data and polling. Okay, so who here believes that it's okay to cheat in elections? Okay. So, well, hold on a minute. The Democrats are not the only people who are cheating, okay? And we've caught them in Pinellas County and across Florida doing this, okay? See, it's the Uniparty, you're right, it is. So my next question, now by the way, you fit into a group of good Americans. 93% of all Americans that we've been polling on this now since 2023, okay? 2023, we've been polling on this, regardless of party, regardless of race, regardless of age, gender, whatever, orientation, whatever, pick your thing. They all agree, 93% agree that there should be zero cheating in elections. However, when we take this poll, people always say to me, well, who's the other 7%? And I say, well, they're the ones that are in office today. They're the ones that selected them. They're the ones that financed them. They're the ones that are benefiting from the election corruption RICO operation. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to bust that up. And we've been following the money. And in our efforts to try to get good conservative Republicans elected across the country, we ended up discovering this anomaly. That's what they used to tell us that I had to call it. It was an anomaly, right? We had this anomaly of people who were donating thousands and thousands of times to political campaigns, despite the fact that it didn't look right. So who here donates one time in an election cycle? Raise your hand. At least once. All right. How about 5 times? Who here? Okay. How about 10 times? Okay. How about 100 times?
How about every time?
How about 500 times? How about 1,000? 2,000? 5,000? How about 10,000? 50? Well, that's what we found. We found that money is being criminally laundered into political campaigns. First it was just the Democrats. Then we found out that the establishment Republicans were doing it as well. And as we traced the money, you know, we really forced their hands. We started off attacking Raphael Warnock in Georgia with this. And then I coordinated with James O'Keefe in Maryland. And that was when the story started to break. And then we started going everywhere, and we uncovered this everywhere. And I went to Rubio, where Rubio was running in 2022, and I said, you are going to have your race stolen. Val Demings is eating your lunch. She is criminally laundering money into your campaign, and you got to do something about it, or you're going to lose. And he was the first person to take some action, which was good. It was real good. And we pushed, and we kept pushing, and we kept pushing, we kept exposing. And ultimately, we ended up getting a House hearing on Act Blue. And magically, everything that us crazy conspiracy theorists were saying, you know, started to be proven true in a House hearing. But then there was a bunch of sternly worded letters and subpoenas that people didn't abide by, and they didn't show up, and they refused to testify, and then everything went silent. And then we had this other thing. We had these things with the machines, the rigged machines, right? The vote by mail ballots. And these people in Pinellas County, they were like, Chris, you know, why don't you run? I'm like, no, I don't want to run. And they're like, I'm busy doing all this other stuff, but they kept at it. And I sat in on a call with a bunch of the supervisor of elections candidates. And I heard what was going on, and I'm like, I know this stuff better than anybody here. I have to step in. And I prayed on it and talked to my spiritual advisor. He said, yeah, you got to do this. And so we got into the fight. And as we ran, we documented all the fraud. We documented the corrupt judges. We documented the vote by mail fraud, the machine fraud, everything getting taken down. And, you know, we went to Ashley Moody. We went to Court Byrd. We went to Ron DeSantis. And they had a duty to act, but they refused to do it. We went to the county sheriff. We went to the Office of Election Crimes and Security. We did everything you could do. We went to the FBI. The FBI wouldn't talk to us. The DOJ wouldn't talk to us. Well, Trump got in. I had my race stolen. I've been fighting it, fought it all the way to the Florida Supreme Court. We're still fighting it. We're still exposing more stuff. And as we're exposing this stuff, we find out that Ashley Moody was taking a lot of Smurf money via the Win Red network. And then we found out that Ashley Moody, and her campaign manager, and the people connected to her campaign, there's this guy, his name's Anthony Pedicini. He's a bad dude, okay? He's behind, anywhere there's anything bad going on in Florida politics, Anthony Pedicini is involved, I promise. Well, they rolled over her state money through a variety of PACs, laundering it along the way. Every transfer of $10,000 is an actual act of money laundering. And they ended up laundering this money into her Senate campaign, into her Senate coffers. And as I was documenting everything for an FEC complaint, somebody had said to me, hey, there's a couple of candidates who took CCP money. And I'm like, really? And so I started digging into that. And then we mapped out the whole network that the CCP controlled. So here we have, in Florida, a Chinese de facto controlled corporation criminally laundering money into political campaigns at the highest level, through every level of government here in the state of Florida. Ashley Moody was the Attorney General when this was first brought forward. And she got a cookie. She took it. She took the cookie and nothing happened. And a lot of other people took the cookie. And a lot of other people took the cookie. A lot of them. People who you think were good people. People who I thought were good people. But they're not good people. They're traitors to America.
That's right.
Now, here's the thing. Okay, this is treason. Okay, this is a Chinese de facto controlled corporation. Okay, criminally buying influence on both sides of the aisle. Because it isn't just the Republicans. Money went to the Bidens. Money went to Kathy Castor in Tampa. Money went all over the place. RPOF took money. That same organization that won't let me talk, that wants to keep Matt off the ballot, the same people who write the laws to hide the fraud, well, that's because their boss, President Xi, wants them to rig the system. I mean, and here we have these machines made in China with Chinese chipsets. And so, what can we do? Well, I get into the fight. And so I filed, over the past 30 days, $7 billion in FEC complaints against a lot of bad actors, and there's more coming. I filed a petition with the Office of Foreign Asset Control against Ashley Moody, IGAS, and every single politician who took tainted Chinese communist money into their political campaigns. I think that had a little bit to do with the replacement of the Attorney General, you see, because she was a lobbyist for that Chinese de facto controlled company, I guess. So I had filed a complaint against everybody involved with FARA, with the fire department, which she had gutted, by the way. Okay, but she's gone now, and I know that people who could be her replacement definitely got what I got to them. Now, this isn't my data. This isn't my evidence, okay? This is the federal government's own findings. So the federal government, the U.S. Commerce Department, under 4 administrations, they all found that this was a de facto controlled Chinese communist company. So it gets better, though. So who here was economically injured during COVID? Who here?
Who wasn't?
Oh, okay.
Maybe the better question is who wasn't?
Well, I know who wasn't. This company called iGas wasn't. Okay? Because their parent corporation, the CCP, released a bioweapon on America. And this company that was under de facto Chinese control took 2 PPP loans, okay, that were specifically designated for harmed American businesses, in an economic injury loan from the SBA, which was, again, also for only American small businesses. So between the Chinese communist money and the fraudulent PPP money that got criminally laundered into these campaigns, and by the way, Ashley Moody is still taking money from this company. She took money, I think the last amount of money that she took from them was in December of 2025. RPOF2. And there's a lot of bad guys out there doing this. And one of them is the governor right now. And his CFO. So Florida's CFO, okay, was involved in this scheme of criminally laundering Chinese communist money into his own political campaign and into Ron DeSantis' federal presidential campaign.